Yo, what's up? It's Chris Mays, and today I'm going to be doing a little track breakdown of my remix of Super Freak by Rick James that I made with the homie Ben Fox. This is my first full length tutorial video track breakdown, whatever you want to call it. I've had the idea to do these for a little while now. I just haven't taken the time to actually do it until now. But yeah, I'm excited to go through this. Like I said, this is my first one, so it might be a little rough, but I'm just going to do my best to show you my process and everything I did with the track. So quick disclaimer before I go into the project here. The final mix and master was not made by me or Ben. We got it stem mastered by Reconnect Studios. So I'm going to link them in the description if you need any mixing or mastering help. They do really great work. So kind of how I finish most of my songs is I do the mix down as good as I can. I mix as I go typically and try to get it as best as I possibly can, but I still like to send out stem masters to a mastering engineer just to get that little final polish. So to start, I'm just going to play the song just from the first breakdown going into the drop so you can just kind of hear how it sounds, and then I'll start going into everything.
Everybody's there. Super freaking out.
So since this was a collab with Ben, we kind of just sent stems back and forth. Sometimes we just do the Ableton project file, but we were having some issues with things coming up, and I think we were using different third-party plugins, which can give you issues when sending Ableton projects back and forth. So we were just doing a lot of stems, but I have mostly everything in here in this project. So how I do remixes, let's start there, is always try to separate the vocal and get an acapella. If I can't find an acapella, I just use stem separation to get the clean acapella. And what I've been using for that is this program called Ultimate Vocal Remover 5. I think one of my friends posted about this online, and I tried it out. This is completely free, and this one works really well. There's a lot of vocal stem separation out there now, and even the newest update of Ableton includes it. I haven't even downloaded that yet, but we made this remix a month ago. So I've been using this one for the past year or so, and this one is really solid. Like I said, there's a ton of other ones out there, so it doesn't really matter what you use, but try different ones out, whatever is your preference. But you just select the input, you just do the whole song file, and then the output, that's just where it saves it to. And then if you want WAV or MP3, then you pretty much just hit start processing, and then that just separates the vocal from the instrumental. And yeah, every time I've used this ultimate vocal remover, it's been really clean and efficient. And the other thing that I did for this remix that was actually really helpful is I found the Midi files for the instrumentation. So basically what that allowed me to do was just drag in the notes of each individual sound in the original Super Freak, and I could just pull in different sounds for them. So I had the bass, the electric piano, the synth pad. I'll go through these quickly. That is just straight up the bass line from the song. Same with that. Same with this. They even had MIDI for the drums and the saxophone at the end too. I didn't use every single MIDI file, but if you can find on the internet, just MIDI files for songs, it's a really awesome way to do remixes and just to kind of start the process pretty quickly, because you don't have to try and figure out what the notes are. If you want to use any of the same notes of the same melody, you just pop the MIDI files in and they're just there, and then you just have to find your own sounds for them. Start with the drums, and again, I'm just going to kind of go through everything one by one. So, okay, it looks like I bounced this kick down. I don't have the original processing that I did on here, but this is a pretty simple kick. Got a little bit of low, mids, and highs in it. Layered with this loop. This is a loop from Kick and Bass. I use a lot of their samples. Definitely some other sounds that I've used in this project were from Kick and Bass. They make a lot of great samples, a lot of great presets for house music. And then there's not much on this. This is just a little bit of a compression, taking down some of the loudest parts of the loop. And then there's some other loops here. These are just kind of filling out the space. And again, there's not much on these either. A lot of my mixing and processing is pretty simple. I like to keep things, I like to just try to find good sounds that work well together, and then you don't have to do too much processing beyond that. Just kind of easier to make tracks that way. So there's some kickstart on here, just a little bit of side chain. This is routed to the kick. And basically what this does, it's just going to duck the sound every time the kick plays. And then if you also put this band setting on, this means that it's not ducking anything under 311 hertz. So if you turn this off, then the entire frequency spectrum of that sound is going to be ducking. But if you turn this on, then it's only everything 311 hertz under is going to be ducking. So, and the point of that is to just remove any low end so it's not affecting the kick. And you'll see I do this on a lot of sounds throughout the track just to really keep that kick like clean and not conflicting with anything. This is just another little percussion loop, again just kind of like filling out the drums. Open hat comes in. All we really have on here is just a saturator, removing some low end, a little bit of high end, and I believe there's some automation on here, yeah, for the builds. And this one is actually the same hat, but I think Ben did some different processing than I did. So that's why this is muted and this is on, because this is just his version of that hat with some extra effects. Thing that comes in here, this is a little shaker loop. All really on here is again is the kickstart side chain, and I do have the frequency band all the way up to 5,000, just because there's not really any content in the lower frequencies, so just have this up all the way just to try and give it a little more pump with the kick.
Ow, now, that girl is pretty. Boys in the band.
We have a cowbell layer that kind of just comes in here with the kick. Just some more background percussion, really just filling out the drum.
Please. Ow, now, that girl.
Okay, one thing I did here with the drums that's kind of interesting is I made these like little fills. And this is just, I don't even know where I found this sample, just somewhere in my library. Just like a little reverse. I might have even done some weird processing on that and then flattened it and reversed it. And then this is, I think, just like a James Brown sample. And then we have it layered with a closed hat. So all that together with the drums just kind of creates a cool little texture. And right here is slightly different sound. So just a drum fill. Cowbells that come in on the second breakdown. And we have our snare roll here, pretty standard. automation on the snare roll helps a lot throughout the build. So this just kind of goes up in volume a little bit. It's actually not a whole lot of automation on this. I usually have more things automated on a snare roll, but here we go. Check out the EQ. So on the snare roll here, I remove the low end as it starts to get into the build. Just kind of thins it out as it gets up into the drop. And then I'm also adding more high end as well. So you're just kind of opening and closing certain frequencies throughout the span of time. Then I'm also automating the reverb over here so that it just comes up and kind of washes it out. Nice. And then one cool thing that I did with the drums too is I added this little snare hit only on the drops. So this is what it sounds like on the drops. And I wanted to add this kind of like 80s sounding metallic snare that's been popular in a lot of modern tech house tracks. But just to give the drop some extra snap, I didn't add it in the other parts of the song. But then when the drop comes in, it just really gives it a little extra hit. And then this snare, again, not much on it. You just have a little bit of saturator and removing some low end. That is it. And this is just a clipper. I have this on pretty much every channel. It isn't even really doing anything on here. This is just making sure that if any track is going over 0 dBs, that it's just clipping. And we're not like going over 0 dB on any of our tracks or our groups. Yeah, so that is pretty much the drums, and then this was just a high passed kick that Ben did. So just on certain transitions, just kind of removing the low end. But yeah, not a whole lot going on. Nothing crazy with the drums, I guess. There's a lot of layering, and you know, drums are really going to make or break your track. So if you can layer a lot and just make sure things aren't clashing too much. All right, let's go into the bass line. So again, we have the sub from the MIDI. So this was already in, the notes are already drawn from the MIDI. And this is a Serum patch, again, from Kick and Bass. I use a lot of their Serum presets for house music. And I'm definitely more of a preset and sample guy. I'm not as much of a sound designer. I do a little bit here and there, and I'm trying to learn more. And I'll definitely take presets and samples and tweak them and do a lot of processing and change things to get how I want it to sound. But I do use a lot of presets and samples from, you know, Pax and other producers. So this is a kick and bass one. Yeah, so this is the MIDI that I got from the file. It's literally the same as the original song. And then on here, we just have some saturator. So a little tip, just to get your basses sounding fatter, you throw a saturator on and put it from analog clip to soft sine, and then don't even touch the drive or anything, just leave it on that. It makes a big difference. Just really accentuates some of the frequencies and almost kind of makes it sound like a little more wide, although I don't think it's adding any width, but nice little tip for saturator. Then we do have the kickstart on there. Now for the bass, I don't do the band button because I want it to duck. I want the entire bass to be ducking when the kick hits. I don't want any part of the bass to be hitting when the kick is hitting. And that is pretty much it. That is all that the sub is. Now, I did layer the sub with, I just called this like a bass buzz layer. And this is pretty much the exact same notes. I just duplicated this. And the crazy part about this is literally the default Serum patch. That is it. I opened up Serum and I added this layer, and really the only thing is I just dropped down 2 octaves. Like when you open up Serum, this is literally what it sounds like. That is just Serum immediately when you open it. I didn't do like a single thing except dropped it down 2 octaves. And when that layered with the sub, it just kind of creates a cool high-end layer. And then I removed the low end so that it's not conflicting with the actual sub that we have in here. Added kickstart, sidechain, bumped the band up to 1,000, so it's stuck at 1,000 hertz. And yeah, that's all that sound is. But it sounds cool layered with everything. And then one thing I did for the breakdown with this sound, I kind of just repeated this little melody, the very beginning, which is right here. Just took that and repeated it for the build. And did a lot of automation with EQ and with auto filter for certain frequencies to come in and out as we're getting into the drop. Gradually bringing more low end in, and removing the high end.
She's super freaking.
All right. Let's check out some of the other sounds that I used with the MIDI. This is the electric piano. This is an Ableton piano sound. So I was just checking out the piano sounds that Ableton has, and I liked this whirly hollow piano. I thought that it sounded good. Again, removing some low end, mixing with some compression to just bring down the peaks of the sound. Added a little bit of delay. Some reverb, and then we are doing the auto filter just for the intro, just so it starts quiet and then it kind of gradually comes into the track. We have the synth pad here, again just MIDI taken straight from what I found online, dropped it in. I found this sound. This is a Serum sound. 7S Tails, I believe this is like just a splice preset that I found. I thought it sounded really good. It was kind of like spooky. And again, pretty similar to this, where just automating the filter so that the higher frequencies aren't in the beginning and it kind of just slowly fades in. And I think that's about it for this sound. There's not much more going on here.
Everybody sing.
And then we have this synth lead that comes in. I use this in the later part of the track. Again, taken straight from the notes from the original song. And this sound is, again, I think this is a splice sound that I found. Main thing going on here, let's see, I added a little bit of OTT compression, again, just a little bit of saturation, and we do have the auto filter, bringing the frequencies up and down.
She's alright. She's alright. That girl's alright with me.
Alright, next up we got a riser. This is a Serum sound, a kick and bass sound. How did I automate this? so the auto filter isn't even on. So yeah, this just has some delay, some reverb, and then I think just whatever whatever preset they made, it automatically kind of made this rising noise, so I didn't really have to do too much. This is just some atmosphere. I think this came from a different synth plugin, and then I must have freeze and flattened it because it says bounce, but that's a pretty simple sound, just some atmosphere for the breakdown section. See, over here we have a string. This doesn't come in until later in the song, the second half of the second drop, but this is a really nice house string. I use this sample for literally any time I need just like a classic house string sound. This is what I use, and then I just adjust the pitch to match, you know, the key of the song. So I actually brought this down 17 semitones, which is kind of crazy, but to bring it to a lower octave D. And then yeah, really not much processing either, just some wider to give it a little bit of width. And then I have this at 202 hertz so that this sound, anything under 200 hertz is not being widened, because you typically want all your lower frequencies to be mono, and then as you get higher into the frequency spectrum, you want them to be wider. So I do some wider. This is a free plugin, by the way, by Infected Mushroom. Nice to just give some things some width. All right, next we have the noise. This is just a noise from Serum. Yeah, just literally I have everything off in Serum. The oscillators are off, the sub is off. It's just the bright white noise sample. And all I'm doing is automating the EQ to go up and down to kind of create a white noise riser and white noise downlifter effect. So as you can see here, it starts at 15,000 hertz and it kind of quickly comes down to 1,000, and then I leave it here at 1,000 just to give it a little extra noise as the section of the song continues. It's not something that you really notice, but it just helps fill out the sound, and I like to have a lot of elements in here that just elements kind of far in the background that you're not going to be able to pick out if you're listening to the song in full, but if you solo them, you can hear that they're there. If you are really listening intently and you mute the track, then you'll notice that it's gone. And this just helps fill out your track. So another thing I did with this noise is I used an auto pan, automated some parameters of the auto pan to kind of create some more riser sounds. So for this rise section, the auto pan, we have the amount going from 0% to 85%. That way, that's just the amount that it's panning from left to right, and then the frequency is how fast it's going to pan. So it kind of creates this tremolo effect as you go through the rise. Just a cool little effect to give the riser a little more character. All right, what do we have here? Oh, I guess we missed some drums. These are just some drum fills for the second drum. These are just samples that I found from Splice. Yeah, just some pretty simple drum breaks. And then right here. Yeah, just some nice fills to put in right before the This is just a little transition effect. Don't know where I found that. Probably just somewhere random in my library. Same thing with this. I think this is another drum fill. Yeah. And then I automated the reverb here so that the last hit of this fill like really echoes out. All right, let's get into the vocals. So, like I said, I had the acapella, and I didn't want to do like I wanted to use pieces of the vocal, but I didn't want to do too much of it. I wanted to kind of keep this a little bit tasteful. So starting off, we just have this everybody sang that leads into the first break. And then I've got a lot of delay on this to kind of carry out into that section. And what I do a lot with delays, especially with vocals, is that I'll automate the delay to turn on at the end of the sample. That way it kind of echoes out, but you're not getting delay on like the whole part of the sound.
Everybody sang.
So we're just delaying that sang, and then the delay I have on is at 2, about 70% feedback. I have the ping pong on, 20% dry wet.
Everybody sang.
And you can see this delay like automates on and off throughout different parts of the song when I want it to.
Yow.
So I have it on there for the yow, and then later on
Here. With me, yeah. Hey, 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 hey.
Yeah, I like delay a lot. Probably one of my favorite plugins to mess around with in Ableton. To be honest, it works great for vocals, and you can make stuff just kind of push it really far in the background if you play with the dry wet and leave it down, and then, like I said, with automating things.
Everybody sang.
So again, just chopped up parts of the vocal for this.
Girls are super freak. Doing magazines.
Have more delay on here. We have an auto filter, so again, removing those high frequencies for this breakdown into the build-up. It's going to gradually add more high end.
Girls are super freak. Every time we meet. She's super freaking now. She's up.
There's just little vocal chops in here to fill out the space.
She's up.
And again, turning that delay on, so just the da, 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 da is what gets delayed.
She's up.
And then for this section, I use some more of the vocal.
Very kinky girl. The kind you don't take home to mother.
Alright, so I'll show you something I did here with this little tremolo plugin. This is called, I don't even know how to pronounce that, PECH tremolo, whatever. This is a free plugin that I found, and I don't know, I just really like how this tremolo effect sounds. So, let's see here.
She's a very kinky girl.
So basically, I'm automating the depth of the tremolo so that here it's at 0% wet, and then here it's basically all the way up 100% wet. So this is off, and then it just automates right up on, so you just get the tremolo effect on the girl.
She's a very kinky girl.
And then I used it again over here.
She will never let your spirits down.
So here you're kind of just getting it a little bit.
She will.
And then here again it comes down to 0 all the way up.
Bend.
I don't know, I thought it just created some cool little intricacies in the vocal for this section. And I believe I have it on this one too, yeah. These are just like basically the same vocal with a lot of the same processing, just in different tracks. So delays can be delaying, and it's just for automation purposes, really.
Very kinky girl.
And again, I have the delay coming on here, so that gets kind of echoed
Very
out.
kinky girl. The kind you don't take home to mother. She's never hard to please. Ow, now. That girl is pretty wild, though.
Alright, I'll show you something that I did here, which can create a lot of cool riser effects in kind of like a unique way. So this one, this vocal plays out into the breakdown that leads into the build-up. but I have this delay effect on, and then I automate a bunch of things within the delay to kind of create some crazy sounds throughout the build.
Wow, no!
So I turn the...
Pretty wild!
So I called it second build delay, and I turned it on right here, just at the end of it.
Wow, no!
And then in order for this sound to play out consistently like this without it fading, you have to turn the freeze button on here. And that basically locks it in sound, so you're going to get that wow, wow, wow to be consistent without it like dipping down in volume over time. And you have to automate the freeze sound to turn on after the actual sample occurs. I'm not sure why, but that's just how I was shown, and I know it works that way. So automate the freeze on, and that kind of locks that sound in place. And then you automate the time here, right here. So you're going to slowly go faster with the time, and this starts to pitch it up and creates a riser effect. Pretty sick. And then here you turn the freeze off. That way it starts to fade out. So that's a cool little thing that I did with that vocal.
That girl is pretty wild. She's alright.
And then this is just looping the She's Alright sample. And again, have the auto filter down pretty far here, so you're really only hearing those lower frequencies until it builds in.
She's alright. She's alright.
And then this is a layer of the same thing. It's just kind of really far in the background, and I put some auto pan for it to kind of swirl around. See, like this is down 17 decibels.
Ride with me, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. She's a super freak, she's super freaking now.
Then what I did for some of these vocals in the second drop is I added spectral resonator, which is a fun little effect. I've noticed a lot of producers, like house producers, using the spectral resonator more frequently to create some cool vocoder style robotic type vocals for their tracks. So that's what I did here. I automated it on, so just this part of the vocal gets the spectral resonator.
She's a super freak, she's...
And you can't really hear it right here because I only have it at 40% wet, but then I automate it to come up, and this is where you can really hear the spectral resonation happening.
She's a super freak, she's super freaking now.
And then it kind of comes back down. And you just have to play with the frequency for a spectral resonator. I usually have it like pretty low, like sounds kind of weird if you have it higher up.
She's a super freak, she's super freaking now.
Yeah. Usually it doesn't really work unless you have it in the lower frequencies, but you just kind of have to play around when you throw it on and play with the dry and wet to see what sounds good.
She's a super freak, she's super freaking now.
And then here I really wanted the Temptation sing part, so I put that in.
Temptation sing.
And then again, turn some delay on at the end of this so it carries out into the next part of the track. Alright, that's pretty much about it for the vocals. I think there's a couple other just like effect sounds in here. These should probably be with the drums, but they're not. Quickly go through these. Just a little shaker. Ear candy, really. Same with this. Just a little breathy sound. Just random samples that I kind of threw in. A little gyro with some weird EQ. All right, some final stuff here that Ben added. He put in these disco stabs. So these definitely helped fill out the breakdown sections. And again, just kind of automating the frequencies. Do this for a lot of sounds, as you can tell, for the breakdowns, just to have things come in soft, and then they get more present as you get into the drop.
She's super freaking now.
Just looping it and bringing the filter up to add my high end, and then adding my side chain on. These are just some really simple sounds, just a little downer and a little riser.
She's never hard to please. Oh no, that girl is pretty wild though.
One other thing I forgot is the group processing I did on the vocals. I actually didn't do a whole lot of group processing and like bus processing on this track, which I normally do. I didn't even really have anything on the drums. Like, this is literally nothing on here. I normally do more bus processing, but for this one, for whatever reason, I just didn't. I think I was just like quick. I had like a lot of ideas in my head, and I kind of knew the direction I wanted to go, so I was just like trying to quickly add stuff and get stuff in. But I did a little bit of group processing on the vocals, so we'll celebrate.
Very kinky girl.
Just a little bit of compression to bring down some loudest parts of the vocal.
Very kinky girl.
Removing low ends.
The kind you don't take home to mother.
Oxford Inflator is a nice plugin. I think I heard about this plugin from Disclosure. I don't know if they still use it, but when they were doing streams during the pandemic, I remember them using this one a lot. I don't even really know how to describe it, to be honest. I think it kind of acts as like a saturator and makes things feel a little more full, a little more present, a little louder. So you can mess with the effect of how much you want it and then the curve as well. And it actually gives you descriptions here. So it's pretty useful plugin. I use it a lot for vocals.
Very kinky girl. The kind you don't take home to mother.
Not doing a lot, but it definitely gives it a little more presence. And again, have the side chain on, routed to the kick, and then I have the band up to 918, just to give this a little more pump with the vocal and the kick.
Very kinky girl. The kind you don't take home to mother. She will never let your spirits down once you get her off the street.
Okay, so final thing, I actually had to open up a different project file for this. So we got the track mastered, and we thought it was finished, but then we actually decided we wanted to add just a couple more effects for the second drop, just to make the second drop sound a little bigger. And I just added these effects in directly over the mastered track, and like I thought it sounded fine. There were just some simple additions, so we didn't feel like we needed to get it remastered or anything like that. But yeah, this is just the fully mastered track with a couple effects added.
With me.
So I added a little riser or down lifter, I guess you could say. And I used this plugin called the riser. I flattened this. Oh wait, that's MIDI. Okay, well anyways, this plugin called the riser is really cool. I use this a lot for risers and transition effects and downlifters. It's really cheap too. It's by like Air Technology. I think I paid like 10 or 20 bucks for this plugin, and you could just make a lot of cool transition sounds with it. So I'd recommend that if you want to mess around with it. Made this sound with that same plugin as well. And then these were just some quick and simple swells. for this little section. So I'm just going to play all this actually.
She's so freaking now. Temptation sing.
Yeah. Just some swells to like go into that next section, and then I grouped these together, added some wider, added a little bit of glue compression. What else is on there? Yeah, my side chain. And then I EQ'd these as well. Well, really just this one. Alright, and that was pretty much it for the Super Freak remix. The track is on SoundCloud. You can go grab it for a free download. Just head over to my SoundCloud, Chris May's House. You can snag it for free. Hope you found this useful. If you could please drop a like, drop a subscribe. If there's anything that you think I could have done better or anything that I missed in the track, let me know. Drop a comment and I'll reply. But yeah, I'm going to try to do more of these. Hope you found it useful, and see you next time.